President Trump is suing JPMorgan Chase and its CEO for shutting down his accounts following the January 6th riot on Capitol Hill. Let's go to Emma Withrow from the Fact Check team to break down the ins and outs of this lawsuit as well as both sides. What did you dig up today, Emma?
Yeah, so he's suing them for $5 billion, quite the sum of money here. And his lawsuit argues that the bank shut down his accounts for political reasons, which is considered political debanking, meaning accounts were closed solely because of political beliefs. Though JPMorgan has denied that it closed Trump's accounts for political reasons and suggested that the closures were actually because of federal rules and regulations. So we'll have to see how this plays out in court.
Well, speaking of, aren't there regulations to prevent this sort of thing from happening?
So there are rules, but they're really designed to protect the government from risk, not customers from being debanked. Agencies like the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau ban unfair, deceptive, abusive acts, but they don't force banks to keep accounts open. So as long as the bank follows its contract, gives notice, doesn't lie about the reason, it's generally allowed to remove a customer.
All right, Emma, thank you. Later on, Emma will join us to dig deeper into debanking in general and the response from President Trump. President Trump's lawsuit against JPMorgan Chase for alleged political debanking has raised questions about banks' business practices and whether or not they're discriminatory. Let's go to Emma Withrow from the Fact Check team. And I know that you dug into a new study from the Cato Institute looking into all of this. What did you find?
So according to Cato, most debanking cases aren't driven by political or religious discrimination themselves. They say that the primary driver is actually government pressure on banks, both directly and indirectly, mainly through federal laws and regulations. The study says that banks are kind of caught between a rock and a hard place here because they're required to monitor customers for suspicious activity, but then they're legally barred in some cases from telling customers why their accounts are closed.
And another layer of this, there are different forms of debanking, right? Tell us more about that.
Yeah, so Cato broke down 4 different categories of debanking. First, governmental debanking. This is when government agencies directly or indirectly pressure banks to close accounts. Second, operational debanking. That's when a bank makes a business decision on its own, like closing accounts for overdrafts, contract violations, reputational concerns based on customer pressure, that type of thing. Third would be political debanking. This would mean closing accounts solely based on someone's political beliefs. And then fourth, religious debanking, which would be closing based on someone's, personal beliefs or religion.
Well, on that last point, what about the claims that conservatives or even religious groups are being targeted?
So the study cited some numbers that Reuters put together, and they found that out of 8,300 account closure complaints, they found only 35 that even mentioned politics or religion. So in high-profile cases, including President Trump's account closures following January 6th, Cato says that the context matters here because a lot of those closures coincided with active criminal or civil investigations and reports that federal law enforcement was kind of pressuring banks to close the accounts down.
That's interesting. Emma, thank you.
Thanks.
We know you'll follow it through. Keep us posted. For more on this Fact Check team topic, including links to their sources, scan the QR code or visit thenationaldesk.com.